One of my favorite quotes is, "It's hard to see the picture when you're the one in the frame." Why? Because when we're the one in the frame, we don't have perspective. And if you've ever been in an unhealthy relationship, this is often the experience. We're the ones in this unhealthy relationship that starts out great, starts out exciting, starts out sexy. And after a while, we look around and we're like, wow, this is not a healthy relationship. And we get out. It's often like a frog that boils in water, right? If the water was hot to begin with, the frog would jump right out. But all you have to do to boil a frog is put it in cold water and slowly turn up the heat, and it will ultimately die. And that's just like being in an unhealthy relationship. It slowly gets unhealthy over time. So what are the signs that you can look at where you're able to say, you know what, this is no longer healthy for me and it's time to get out? Today, we're going to talk about nine signs that you're in a potentially unhealthy relationship and you might want to rethink the pattern that you're in. So number one is, does your relationship feel like a roller coaster ride? All relationships have their up and downs, but it should feel more like a great road trip that you're on that's got some hills rather than the King Ka roller coaster, if you know what I mean. If you're experiencing super high highs, but also super low lows, where there's this rhythm of drama, and often the lows will follow the highs. And that's because unhealthy people, they will create drama just for the sake of balancing out the high. There's a part of them that needs to feel the low because they were riding too high in the first place. And so people will create fighting matches. There'll be screaming, there's yelling, there's anger, there's jealousy. All kinds of stuff gets created because they're trying to balance out the high highs. So you want to look for this pattern. Do you have super great times followed by super low lows? You want to have the great times, but it doesn't have to drop so low. If you notice that pattern, is something to pay attention to. The second sign that you're in an unhealthy relationship is, do you feel like you're walking on eggshells? Does your relationship feel like this? Like every step you take, you're going to crack the eggs. Why? Because the person gets triggered, the person gets angry. You don't know what you're going to say that might set them off, that might trigger them. That is not a healthy state. What that creates is a level of stress, a level of tension in your body. And in the long run, that's going to burn you out. Fascinating that healthy relationships, one of the hallmarks is that you have a feeling of peace, that you have a feeling of ease, that you can screw up and say the wrong thing, that the person's going to forgive you, they're going to accept you, that it's okay to be yourself in this relationship. So if you're constantly stressed, like the person might get upset, or the person might pull away, the person might get offended, those are not things that you want in a long-term relationship. I remember in a relationship that I had with a woman, it was like I was constantly going over conversations in my head that I was going to have with her to kind of vet them and make sure that what I was saying, she wasn't going to take offense to it or wasn't going to be taken the wrong way, because she had this pattern of getting offended. Some people, they claim power by being offended or being upset, and then the other person has to help them calm down, has to help them feel okay. That's their way of claiming power. It's a power trip, and it's an unhealthy dynamic in a relationship. The contrary to that is, can you just be yourself in this relationship? That's what you're looking for. Now, the third sign that you're in an unhealthy relationship is if the effort is not equal. The amount you're investing and the amount they're investing is not in the same plane. Now, it doesn't have to be 100% equal. Sometimes someone's going to be giving more than the other person just from the amount of energy that we have that particular day. But really, you're looking overall. And it's unhealthy if you are doing most of the work. You're doing most of the investing. How do you know? Well, you know because you have this thought that if you don't reach out, if you don't plan the date, if you don't make the effort, if you don't send the text, if you don't make the call, if you don't do these things, then the relationship is going to die. That person might slip away and you're holding on. Like you've got this grip in this relationship. Like, I'm really hoping. And there's this false belief that says if I just invest long enough, they're going to start reinvesting. They're going to fall in love enough to then invest. And that's a fallacy. That is a myth. People don't automatically wake up and then start investing. Who you get in the beginning of the relationship, this is their best behavior. This is how people show up. They want to impress you in the beginning. If they're not invested in the beginning, it's downhill from there. And so what you're looking for is someone who's willing to match your level of investment. And let me just tell you, it is so refreshing. It's so amazing, especially if you've been on kind of this pattern of you're the one investing and the other person gets to sit back and relax. Two things happen. Number one, we train them to sit back. When you're over investing and you're carrying the weight of the relationship and you're doing all the work, what you're doing is you're training the person that they don't have to do any of the work, that you're going to carry it all, and they get used to that. However, in the beginning, if you can sit back, you invest and then allow them to invest, create that space, it creates this dynamic where both people say, okay, we're going to both pour into this relationship. And let me just tell you, the experience is night and day. I can remember being on this date, dating a woman, super into her. She was beautiful, fun, smart. She just wasn't into me the way that I was into her. And we dated for a while, and we were coming up on, I believe it was like our year anniversary, this kind of a thing. And I pulled out all the stops. I planned this like 1 year anniversary dinner. And I remember I wrote her this poem. This like full on long, like multiple page poem about how I felt. And I'm only laughing because it was just 100% not on the same page. Like she got me a little nice present, like a little bottle of cologne. At the end, she was like, oh, I feel so bad. She was like apologizing for her lack of sentimental gift. She was like, I was out of town and I was just super busy. And so I ran to the mall before I came here. It wasn't even wrapped. It was like in the bag from the mall. It was a perfect illustration of, it was a kind gesture. It was a nice thought. There was all these reasons and excuses, and she was really nice about it, that she hadn't invested at the same level at that 1 year anniversary dinner that I did. As much as I wanted to believe, in that moment I was like, oh, no problem. And we just kept moving forward. And sure enough, a couple of months later, she broke up with me. She absolutely wasn't into me at the level that I was into her. And in the long run, if I had seen that way earlier, I would have saved myself so much time and heartache from that experience. Half of getting into the relationship you want is being willing to cut loose the relationships that are no good faster. Now, the fourth sign that you want to look at is, does revenge take the place of communication? So in relationships, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to break agreements. We're going to maybe break trust at times. We're going to hurt feelings at times. It's just part of the human journey. And we're all human. We all make mistakes. The question is, in that moment when you maybe made a mistake, does your partner seek to punish you by withholding their love or maybe doing an act of revenge instead of just communicating how they feel and what it is they want? Like, for example, maybe, you guys had plans to hang out and you also had plans with your friends, and these are friends that come from out of town, and you forgot to tell your partner that they were coming in, and so you wanted to hang out with your friends, and so you're canceling plans on your partner, and then your partner feels angry about it. Or maybe the two of you watch a Netflix series together. There was this unspoken agreement that you guys were going to wait for each other to watch, and you watched a few episodes ahead, and now they're pissed about it. In that moment, what do? There are a couple of phrases that you want to pay attention to, that if you hear these phrases, it means this is a toxic relationship. This is a toxic pattern that this person is operating with. The first phrase is, well, now you know how it feels. So if you are in a relationship and someone does something and then they say that's their response, that's revenge. That's not healthy communication. And the second phrase is, well, you did the same thing to me, because in that moment you might get hurt. You're bringing it up to them, open communication, and they're just throwing back in your face that they were hurt, which is the reason that they're hurting you now. Both of those are toxic communication patterns. What you're looking for is the person who can bring you how they feel, what happened, and then create a new agreement. That's the healthy pattern. Now, the fifth sign that you're in an unhealthy relationship is that your other relationships suffer. What's happening with your friendships? What's happening with your family relationships? Now, it's normal that when we get into especially a new relationship, that our focus is on that person. Like, we get absorbed. We want to spend as much time as we can with that person. And you want to really be careful of alienation. An unhealthy, toxic relationship, what that person does is they try to vie for power. They try to gain control. And one of the ways they do that is turning you against the people in your life that are close to you, so that they can be the only ones close to you. They'll start turning you against your friends, talking bad about them. They'll turn you against your family. In contrast, healthy relationships, what you'll notice is it actually brings you closer together with your friends, brings you closer together with your family, that your relationships as a whole become more enriched and grow because of this great relationship that you're in. So you want to pay attention to, is this person trying to push people away that are close to you in your life, or are they trying to bring you together? Number 6 is being with them makes you tired. What I love about this particular sign that you want to notice is that as much as our conscious mind tries to rationalize why things are good, like we'll think, well, this is good, that's good, we'll have like a list of all the good things and maybe the bad things, the body never lies. And so what you can do is really pay attention to, how do I feel when I'm around this person? Specifically, when I leave this person's presence. Do I feel expansive? Do I feel uplifted? Do I feel good? Or do I feel drained? Like, in other words, when you leave them, that's when you feel expansive because they were constricting your energy. Now, I'm not talking, when I say tired, I'm not talking about tired, sleepy because you guys stayed up all night, like hooking up, or tired because you spoke on the phone till 3 a.m. That kind of stuff is going to happen with new relationships where you're really into each other. What I'm talking about is more this physical level of exhaustion because they're draining your energy. They're not replenishing your energy. That's one that you really want to pay attention to and really tune into your body for the answer. The 7th sign that you might be in an unhealthy relationship is that people who love you are warning you about this person. Remember, it's hard to see the picture when we're the one in the frame. And so our own perception will become skewed because of personal bias. If we have a personal bias, like we've got feelings for this person, we're in love with this person, we're attached to this person, our own perception of what's going on is going to be altered. And so if you notice that 3 or more people, separate people that you love, and these people love you and they're not trying to manipulate you, they've got your back, they love you. If they're telling you that this person is no good for you, or that you've changed, or they're worried about you, as much as you might not want to hear that in that moment, pay attention to it, because it's a strong signal that, wow, they might be able to see something that you're not seeing. So the 8th sign that you might be in an unhealthy relationship is you act as their life coach. Now, this one is subtle because we all want to help each other. You might have awareness, you might have skill sets, you might have experience that can really help that person, but you want to be careful that you're supporting them as a partner and not coaching them as a colleague. You see, that is the definition of a codependent relationship, is where their problems become yours to solve. So you ask them questions, you give them answers, every problem they have, they're coming to you, and it really creates this power dynamic that moves you up here and puts them down here. And what's fascinating is this is a habit that people get into because it's safe. If you're bringing more value to the relationship because you're the coach and you're helping them, they become a project for you, not a partnership. It's not equal. And the risk is that the person who's bringing the value is very validating. It increases the level of security. It increases the level of self-importance, and it fuels the values that person has to contribute and make a difference. And so you really want to take a look at, wow, am I empowering this person to solve their own problems and giving them support, versus am I taking on their problems, solving them for them, and coaching them through it? And number 9 is if you're consistently disappointed. And there's often that part of us that has hope, that believes in people, that believes in the possibility of a relationship. And we can get in our own way with the thought process of, if this one thing was different, or if they just invested at this higher level, or if they could just learn this thing, and if they could just be different, then things would be better. But if you're really honest with yourself and you look back over the last period of months and you ask yourself, how much of the time have I been happy? Or how much of this time have I been disappointed? And if you've been disappointed the majority of the time, if you've been let down the majority of the time, if it hasn't met your level of expectations or standards, then have the courage to let it go. Because here's the deal. There is someone amazing for you. There is someone who is your equal. There is someone who can communicate the way that you want. There is someone who will invest at the level that you want them to invest. There is someone who is going to be fun to hang out with, who is passionate with you, who prioritizes you. This person exists. And the longer you stay in the unhealthy relationship, the more you delay meeting the right person for you. This person wants to be with you, and you fully deserve this quality of a relationship. as you take a look at the relationship that you're in, or maybe past relationships, and you see these signs, it's an opportunity for us to make a decision for what we want, a decision for what we're calling in, a decision for what we're making welcome in our life. Because whatever it is that is your vision, that you're willing to decide for, that thing begins seeking you at that moment. And so I hope this serves you in recognizing even faster when you might be in an unhealthy relationship, so you can either repattern it or release it and create something beautiful in your life. I appreciate you. I believe in you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.